everyone, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Lynn Weaver. Welcome to another episode of In the Studio, a program brought to you by Davis Media Access to inform you and hopefully entertain you. The program broadcasts on Davis Community Television, that's Comcast Channel 15, and AT&T UVerse Menu 99. We're also online at dctv.davismedia.org and on YouTube. The topic is humankind, and more specifically, why is it that humans have come to be so diverse? Whether it is because of the multitude of languages that we speak, or the diverse shape of body size, or physical traits, are the color of our skins, also maybe the diverse social, cultural traditions that we all have, and perhaps longevity, also our mental ability, and maybe the propensity in various degrees on how to adapt and survive. And I might add, is this a good thing? So in order to help us understand some of these big questions, the science rather behind the big questions, I have invited an illustrious guest who is recently published a book for the not-so-scientific community titled Humankind, How Biology and Geography Shape Human Diversity. And this is Professor Alexander Harcourt. Welcome, Professor Harcourt.
Thank you very much. Honored to be here.
Professor Harcourt is Professor Emeritus in the Department of Anthropology and the Ecology Graduate Group here at UC Davis. And he is the author and co-author of several scholarly books, many scientific papers and publications. But he also has a very eclectic background, in which I hope he will tell us a little more about. So again, welcome for your time to being on our show, and do tell us about you.
About me that's relevant to the book that we're talking about, not everything about me. Yes. But to some extent, I liken my life history to the human life history. I mean, I was born in Africa, and the human species originated in Africa.
Of course.
Yep. In Africa, where I was born, Kenya, there are at least 50 different language groups, 50 different peoples there speaking different languages, illustrating the diversity, the cultural diversity of the tropics. Africa is the same as Asia and South America, far more culturally diverse than outside of the tropics.
And that in itself is a very interesting point.
Very interesting. There are biological reasons, obvious cultural reasons as well, but I deal with biology. I'm a biological anthropologist and ecologist. Then we were there because my father was a farmer there, managed cattle and sheep.
How interesting.
Which to me sort of epitomizes European hegemony in the past over tropical countries.
Yes.
We then moved to Scotland, in fact, and some people can detect Scots in my accent. We moved to
bit,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
You certainly don't sound like you come from Davis.
No, exactly right. Moved to Scotland, and where then one of the things that I point out is Scotland is dark and cold for 6 months of the year.
And windy.
And windy. Not much sun, and so we needed to have vitamin D in our diet, extra vitamin D in our diet. So my mother fed me cod liver oil. My mother and my mother fed me and my 3 sisters cod liver oil every morning.
So did my mother.
Okay, exactly, yeah.
We're dating ourselves here.
That's right, yes. Yeah. And then I happily met my wife, who's an American. So I moved to America, moved to California. Like humans, moved from the old world to the new world. They moved to the new world almost last of all, and they're spread around the world from Africa. And this is where I am at the moment, in California.
Now, tell us briefly, you've done some field work, of course. Can you tell us for a couple of minutes? Whom did you study? Homo?
No. Well, we gave names to the animals that we studied. When I did field work, I was studying gorillas.
Oh.
And that's where I actually met my wife, studying gorillas under Diane Fossey.
Oh.
Yeah. So for the first, I don't know, 15 years of my professional scientific life, I was writing about gorillas.
And so you knew Diane
Knew Diane very well, yes. Knew all the gorillas very well.
Yes.
Gave names to many of the gorillas. They all had names so that we could both tell them apart and write about them as individuals, because that was our interest, the social behavior of the animals. Why do they live in the sorts of social systems that they do live in? Yeah.
Yes. But I believe, going back to your recent book, I believe this is sort of like the big pictures that you want to give us about the summary of all your studying and research and thoughts.
Yeah, right. Here's a very important point to make. I myself have not collected any data on humans, other than as an ordinary human being.
Yes.
So both my books, this one and my previous one on the same topic, but it was a very scientific book.
The scholarly one.
It's always using other people's work. I'm using all the other people's works, and all I've done is bring it together. There's an occasional idea of my own that I already know that some people disagree with.
Yes.
But really what I've done is bring other people's work all in one place.
And
myself,
make it understandable.
If you understood, I'm delighted. Yes, exactly. Yes, I always try to make what I write understandable.
It's very interesting because you have, throughout your research, you've used genetics, linguistics, anthropology, and geography especially, which is a very novel approach in a way to track humans and their migrations and explain, for some reason, the diversity. I'm not sure if I'm interpreting this correctly. But anyway, what have you concluded?
Okay. Well, again, it's not me that's used all those fields.
No.
And the conclusions that I come to are almost all, 99.9%, other people's conclusions.
Okay.
So again, I've brought this work together. I don't want people to think that almost any of this is originating with me. I'm really talking about other people's work.
All right.
Right. So I think a really important conclusion that lots and lots of people need to know about is that we are fundamentally all African.
Yes.
There is less genetic diversity in the whole human species, all 7 billion of us, than there is in a single population of West African gorillas or chimpanzees. We have so recently evolved from Africa, from such a small part of Africa, that we are genetically identical across the whole of the world by comparison to our closest relatives, even single populations of our closest relatives. That, I think, is...
How many millions of years was this?
No, we're not talking millions of years, exactly. I mean, it looks as though we probably originated, became Homo sapiens, became a human being 200,000 years ago. That's sort of the earliest we can tell, really.
With a very, very new experiment.
Extremely new. And then left Africa 60,000 years ago. We actually left Africa about 120,000 years ago, but didn't get further than the Middle East, as far as anybody can tell at the moment.
Yes.
And that's what I stress here in the book as well. As far as we know at the moment, it's a terribly important phrase to use in science. Yeah.
And I really am in awe, in a way, at the candor that you have as a scientist. Not everybody would do that, so congratulations. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about, very quickly, something that I've been thinking about is human diversity, or this incredible diversity a necessity for survival, do you think, of the human species?
No. Short answer.
Well, this
exactly.
is great. Yes, and it's a surprising answer as well.
I know.
Yes.
We've got sort of two forms of diversity. Our biological diversity,
Yes.
we differ physiologically and anatomically across the world.
Yes.
And of course our cultural diversity, which I've already mentioned. I don't think so now, because what's surely going to help us survive is in fact our brain. It's in fact all the modern abilities that we have constructed with our brain. It's not going to be our skin color. It's not going to be our long legs or our short legs. It's not going to be this culture rather than that culture.
Yes.
It's going to be the ability of all of us to use our brain to cope with the massive changes that mostly we are causing to the world.
Yes, well, this is a very interesting answer, some unexpected in a way to me. But let's delve a little bit further into the book. Now, your book is very thought-provoking, and but it's also very entertaining, and it's sprinkled with all. You sprinkled your text with several personal anecdotes. So, would you like to share some of these anecdotes with us? I mean, your choice.
Of course I would.
Yeah. That was a rhetorical question.
That's right, exactly. Yes. Well, I've already illustrated what a fundamental part of the book, I think, is sort of partly with my life history, how we've spread across the world and why we're different and how we're different. Not why we're different,
so
yes,
it's
but how
a
we're
metaphor
different.
in a
Exactly,
way.
that's a metaphor.
In an extended metaphor,
right.
Yes. Yes.
One of the anecdotes I like is, as a Brit coming to America, it's frankly an anecdote about my geographic ignorance. It was when I was invited to a conference on the Hawaiian Islands, and I landed in Honolulu.
Yes.
And at the airport, went to the taxi hire place and asked how much it would take to hire a taxi and how much it was going to cost and how long it would take to drive to Hilo. I didn't know that they were on different islands. They're whatever it is, 300, 200, 500 kilometers.
And what was the response you got?
The person's face dropped, their jaw dropped, and they stared at me for a bit, and then they're on different islands. You actually have to take an aeroplane. I'm afraid I didn't know about that.
That is your social, cultural diversity.
That's right, exactly, yes. Yeah.
Another one.
More anecdotes. Well, an anecdote, again, one that I've already mentioned, but I think it is definitely worth mentioning. I've mentioned the fact that as Europeans recently arrived in Scotland, I was 5 years old when it happened,
Yes.
Where
A shock
dark
in a
for
way.
yes,
Yes.
dark for 6 months of the year, we needed to be fed extra vitamin D and cod liver oil. No, young people won't know cod liver oil. It's absolutely disgusting.
Oh, it is, I know.
The other thing that my mother fed me and my sisters,
force-fed.
it was force-fed us, but what she rewarded us for taking it by after the spoonful of cod liver oil was a spoonful of concentrated orange juice.
Ah.
Because in Scotland,
Yes.
back then, fresh food really wasn't available.
No.
And of course, what the concentrated orange juice had was vitamin C.
Yes. Yes.
And that's absolutely vital for our survival as well. We enjoyed the vitamin C.
We did,
Yeah.
and I still do, I think.
Okay,
Yes.
exactly, yeah.
But this is, now, were you happy at home in Africa more than in Europe?
I don't think so. I mean, kids get used to where they are.
Yes.
I mean, when you look at the programs on television now of all these refugee kids,
Yes.
most of them seem really quite happy. It's really pretty extraordinary, unless the poor people are starving.
That's right.
A refugee camp in and of itself isn't necessarily a sad place for a child.
No.
They're extraordinarily cheerful.
Yes.
So no, I mean, we just moved to Scotland and it was a different experience for us. I can't remember being unhappy in the slightest.
Did you have a chance to speak any of these dialects when you were little, with maybe some of the help?
No. As far as I remember, and as far as I remember my parents saying, we never learned any of the native Africans' languages.
And that's a social cultural
Exactly.
thing
Yeah,
of the Brits,
back in the
right?
1950s. Yeah, right.
Well,
I wish I had, but yeah.
I keep saying politically incorrect things, so we better ask you something else. Now, humans, we have been talking, from time immemorial have felt compelled to disperse and migrate and trek along the shores of the earth. Now, is this constant mobility and migration unique to humans? I mean, at first sight, it might be not unique, but after a while, I was thinking, do squirrels, lizards, even birds migrate never to return? Well, squirrel and lizards don't really go anywhere.
Right.
But birds,
Yeah.
for example, even turtles, they're always coming back. But humans,
No, I think there are plenty of species that do just the same as humans do.
Really?
One they explore, which is what I reckon explains our movement across the world. Lots of people are looking for, and they might be right and I might be wrong, are looking for environmental reasons of why we left Africa.
Food, lack of food,
Exactly,
and all that.
drought,
Yes.
too much rain, too little rain, and so on.
Yes.
Humans explore.
Yes.
But so do lots of animals. When I was studying gorillas, gorillas where we were, they ranged over about 5 square kilometers. Each family ranged over about 5 square kilometers.
Yes.
But maybe once or twice a year, they would suddenly take off outside their range, and just looks as if it was an exploratory trip. What is out there?
Yes.
Looking to see if there was anything better out there, getting some information out there, in evolutionary terms, maybe in case they had to move at some point. Humans do exactly the same. We explore, animals explore.
Well, sorry. Yeah.
And then another similarity with humans is we moved across the world. Lots of other animals have moved across the world. As the glaciers retreated up America, glaciers used to cover New York. So animals from South America and animals from south of North America.
It still does on some winters.
Right, okay, yes. They moved up North America,
Yes.
following the retreating ice as the environment became suitable for them. Humans did the same thing. And so in that sense, there are plenty of other species that have done the same thing as we have. Moved into and out of Africa, for example. Lots of other mammals have done that too.
Well, so once again, another very surprising answer to this big question, and surprising, and in conclusion, then you say it's intrinsic in the human and animal world to go and explore.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Exactly, yes.
And the space exploration is a good example now.
There you go, right.
Yes,
Right.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Now, do you think we are, and that's a trick question,
Okay.
do you think we're evolving into a new type of human? Both biologically and culturally and so on.
Yeah. In one sense, I'm sure we are, because so recently we have evolved biologically. So recently, 10,000 years ago, for example, less than that, probably about 7,000 years ago, we, as human beings in West Africa and in Europe, evolved biologically the ability to digest milk as adults.
Oh.
We're talking almost historical time.
Yeah.
Because genes, actually they're called specifically alleles, but I'll just call them genes, that's how I understand them.
Yes.
Our genes changed. We used to have a chemical that switched off our ability to digest milk once we got to about 3 years of age. In cultures that had livestock, milk was an extremely important provider of nutrition, and probably water as well when we're talking West Africa.
Yes.
The ability to continue to drink it gave those who could do so an advantage. And when something's an advantage, it becomes an advantage because those people survive better, they reproduce better, and that biological ability spreads through the population. 7,000 years ago, almost the
And
time
that's a
when we started.
very, very short
Very
time.
short.
Yes.
We're building by then.
Yes.
We're putting up monuments by then.
Yes.
So yes, we're still evolving. We can see that also in resistance to disease, for example.
Yes.
Resistance to disease developed in the Americas after malaria was brought there with the slaves, by the Europeans bringing slaves to America. That
Yes.
brought yellow fever and malaria.
Yes.
The native peoples in America, including some of the Europeans who were there, evolved resistance to malaria.
Yes.
And now we are talking definitely historical times. So yes, we are changing. Changing
We are
genetically,
changing
yeah,
genetically.
and biologically, yeah.
And of course, we'll never really know for sure whether our cultural and our adaptation skills influence our biology or vice versa.
Both. It's got to be both.
Both. It's got to be both.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes. Remember this famous or notorious argument about intelligent. Is this innate or is it acquired?
Exactly.
It's the same thing. Yes.
Exactly the same thing.
Yes.
I mean, so the person who first decided, I am going to drink that cow's milk, that was just intelligence. That was just exploration.
Exploration.
Exactly.
We're going back to
exploration.
Yes.
Doing the same as animals.
Yes.
I don't know. My baby does it, so let me try it. My kittens do it, so let me try it. That was just pure product of the mind. But thereafter, along came the biological changes following this behavioral intelligent change.
It's fascinating.
And an interaction between the two of them all the time. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Yeah. Another question that perhaps is a little bit has no answer, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping you'll give me one.
Okay, right.
How long is our time on Earth?
Well,
I mean, I don't mean you and you.
I know, of course. Exactly, yes. This I found really does shock people quite a lot.
Good, that'll shock me too.
We've been around for 200,000 years. We, Homo sapiens, has been around for 200,000 years. There have been several other Homo species out there.
Yes.
Homo erectus, for example.
Yes.
Homo neanderthalis, for example.
Yes.
And the average one of those was around for 600,000 years. The average for 600,000 years.
That's not a very long time.
It's not a very long time, but it's another 400,000 years for us just to be an average Homo species.
And of course,
another 400,000 years, twice as long as we've been on Earth so far. And we're running out of lots of stuff.
Yes. It's wonderful.
Who knows whether we're going to make it.
Well, of course, unless we completely annihilate ourselves.
There's that. Much of the time, we work out, we've used up one resource, we work out how to replace it with another resource.
Yes.
Whether we're going to be able to do that with fresh water, who knows? Whether we're going to be able to do that with agricultural land, who knows?
This is such a fascinating topic. I'm so jealous that I can't spend my life working on these topics. Now, are you planning another nice book? Is that in the future? I'm prying, I know.
Right. Well, I am.
Good.
But I'm not going to tell you what it is.
How come?
Well, somebody else might decide it's a nice idea and get the book out before I do. My editor, publisher, is pushing me to tell them what the next book is going to be. Exactly, that's right.
Yeah. That's their job.
And there is one in the pipeline. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. Now, what are some of the most crucial questions that you'd like to answer beyond what we've talked about?
Wow. I think one of them, a really interesting one, would need a time machine, perhaps. It's to go back and look at the first meetings between Neanderthal and Homo sapiens, or Homo erectus and Homo sapiens in Africa.
Yes.
How did these two species, Neanderthal is now thought of as a different species from Homo sapiens, how did these two species interact? We actually know part of the answer with Neanderthal. We bred with one another. there are
Yes.
Yeah, there are
Yes.
Neanderthal genes in humans.
And it's a recent discovery.
Absolutely,
isn't it?
exactly, yes.
Thanks to, I believe, DNA?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
exactly, that's right,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, that wasn't available.
That's right,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So I think, as, I'm not a cultural anthropologist, but as somebody who's studied behavior, as somebody who associates with cultural anthropologists, as somebody interested in the sorts of questions that I write about, it would be fascinating, I think,
It
to see these two species interacting. I suspect it'd be exactly the same as people from two different cultures interacting. There'd be some nervousness to start with, and then
Yes.
they'd start making friends with one another. Some of them would decide that they didn't like one another.
Yes.
I actually don't think it would be that much different from
Yes.
how people from different countries interact with one another.
Well, yes, you start by the looks, and then
Yeah.
maybe someone begins to be friendly.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. Professor Harcourt, it's been wonderful. Time has gone by, has flown by, and but once again we have Professor Harcourt has written the book Humankind: How Biology and Geography Shape Human Diversity, and I believe it's been published a few months ago?
By now, about a month ago.
About a month ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And we have your website
Good.
Displayed on our program,
Okay.
and we are really looking forward to having another book from you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much for coming to our program.
My
I'm
pleasure.
sure this program is going to be a hit. And so I'm afraid, as I said, we're out of time. Thank you so much for watching. You've been watching in the studio. If you'd like to see this program again, you can go to our website, dctv.davismedia.org. And while you're there, you might want to check out some of our other programs. And we have our illustrious guests, and the range of topics is infinite almost. So from all of us here at Davis Media Access, thank you so much for watching. My name is Lynn Weaver, and see you next time.